All right. Welcome to episode 10 of Edges and Sledges. Today is a bit of a milestone one. We've hit 10. Can't believe we've hit 10 on the trot. And yeah, it's IPL fever is in full swing. Keeping up with our tradition over the last 4 weeks, we've got another special guest with us this week. Before I introduce him, I'm Varun from Singapore. I've got my co-bloggers DJ from London and Ashwin from Toronto. And like I said, we've got a special guest this week. He's my oldest friend, and he's not 50 years old. I've just known him from since class six. We have Ritwik Ghosh on the line. Hi, Ritwik.
Hey guys,
So,
Can I just make a point as well, actually? I actually knew Ritvik before Varun did.
that's true. You
Oh.
might be the oldest friend.
Yeah?
oh,
Ritvik, do you want to tell the
Studied
story?
together.
Yeah, we used to go in the auto to the Montessori together. So
Oh.
so I actually know him from before, and then I met him again at school. And I was like, I used to know a guy called Ritvik Ghosh. We were 6 years old. We used to hang out of the auto together. And then he was like,
Nice.
yeah, that's me.
awesome. That's a cool story. Okay, that's something I didn't know. So that's really good. And Ritwik he is a cricket fan. He's not a vocal cricket fan. He's more like a closet cricket fan. Because I think the people he hangs out with talk too much about cricket. So Ritwik is a bit more quiet about his following for cricket. But I do have to share one story like I have in the past. I remember, so Ritwik and I used to live together. We worked in Singapore. And on the day Sachin scored 200, and Ritik, I don't know if you remember this, but when Sachin hit 130, both of us didn't want to jinx it. And so we just kind of casually called each other and said, hey, man, do you want to like head home or something? Should we, go home? There's something on. Let's go watch it. And for the entire 1.5 hours between Sachin's 130 and 200, we didn't jinx it at all. We didn't talk about him hitting 200. But yeah, we did rush home together. So that was, I remember that as a special cricket memory.
And then I think at some point Yogi was like, "Guys, have you seen Sachin score? Do you think
Yeah.
he hit 200?"
Yeah. And then Ritik and I were like, all our energy has gone into not doing this. But yeah, today is also a special show because you've got four Delhi Daredevils fans. And so but obvious the team we're going to talk about is the Double Ds. So Ritik, before we get into this season, talk us through a little bit about what it's been like to be a Delhi fan for the last 10, 11 years.
It's had its ups and downs for sure. When Delhi first started in, the first IPL and the second IPL, Delhi actually did well. I think we made the playoffs in the first two. And Viru was there. It was like a promised start. They had some big name players in the team. And then suddenly, I haven't been able to quite pin it down why Delhi hasn't been able to perform at all. It's not simply one of not having the right players. And it's not simply the one of not having the right international players. We've experimented with like Kevin Peterson and stuff. If like 2011 or 10. And so, I think there is a love-hate relationship here. And you guys, I think all three of you are avowed Delhi Daredevils fans. So you probably all share the, disappointment every year halfway through the IPL that Delhi is not going to be able to make it. So it's a constant struggle with disappointment.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair way to put it. I think you also mentioned some key players. If I remember correctly, in our first couple of years, we had Gautam Gambhir, Virender Sehwag, Dilshan, A.B. de Villiers, followed up by Kevin Peterson. So all the big names. But yeah, it hasn't seemed to click. DJ, any thoughts on, a couple of episodes ago we discussed culture versus just having the right players. Any thoughts on that?
It's frankly inexplicable. I mean, they've had some great players over the years. They've had a great combination. So I think the part of the disappointment about being a Daredevils fan is every year at the auction, you're like, okay, this is going to be the year, and they're going to do well. They picked up Brathwaite just after his World Cup winning performance and stuff, and so you think that okay, this is going to be the year, and then every year you're just let down. And what hurts even more is that the players that do so well go elsewhere and become superstars. And you're just like, how do I do this? I mean, for example, Samson, right? He played for the Daredevils while the Rajasthan Royals were out, and he did nothing. And he's come back into the royal blue colors, and he's smashing it again. So it boggles the mind. I can't work out what the issue is. So I don't have an answer, to tell the truth.
Yeah, fair enough. In fact, last year we had Sam Billings. He didn't do too much. He moved to Chennai. Suddenly, Sam Billings is the youngster who's scoring runs for them and actually I think won them 1 or 2 games. So, yeah, man, it's a totally fair point. But so I think to sum up, basically, yeah, it's been frustrating being a Delhi Daredevils fan for 11 years. You're always kind of hoping, and nobody knows this better than Ashwin. Every year, in fact, even yesterday, he was messaging me how Delhi can still make the playoffs, right? It is frustrating. Ashwin, let's talk about a little bit about this season. What do you think happened with the Gautam Gambhir thing? And I mean, I think all of us in the last episode said it was a positive move. But what do you think happened? How do you read that?
Yeah, my take on the situation is there can only really be one alpha or a really powerful figure in any camp. And as you look at the different sides, it's either the captain or the coach. And in the past couple of years, like when we had Zahir, basically it's been either the captain or the coach. And what I think happened this year is in the attempt to gain some real firepower and really make a game-changing difference this year. They brought on Gambhir as that, Gambhir has a lot of attitude, big ego, but they also brought on Ponting as that coach, and it just didn't work. I mean, it could have, it didn't work, and then we've talked about this before as well. I think Gambhir didn't deliver with the bat, and so he had a 50 in the first game. Things started pretty good, and then 2, 3, 4, 5 more games passed, five losses out of the first six. And I think the decision was just made, by everybody that you have to either have Gambhir or Ponting, and Ponting won that round. And first couple of games, you see Iyer as the captain, but really you can tell that the strings behind the scenes are being pulled by Ricky Ponting. So I think that's my take on what happened this year. Feels like there's a different excuse every year. It's been 11 years without real results, but I think that's what happened this year.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think that's a good point. Let's talk a little bit about this season now. Before we get to individual performances, Ritik, last week you sent me a message that really kind of resonated. Right? You said Delhi should not aim to be in the top four right now, given the situation they're in. Delhi should aim to be fifth, and I think that. And you said that was more realistic. That is something they could work towards. Any thoughts on where that came from? Is it just to share your thoughts?
I think the same question of what's the ailment for Delhi Daredevils. Every year the auction becomes one point where we're very excited about what's going to happen next. The auction is where we're getting new players, and Delhi has it's tried different strategies for auctioning as well. It's tried from getting those old generation players, tried getting players who are already doing very well other places. The people who stick are people like I was trying to look over there, like Iyer, Pant, Mishra, and Nadeem, I think, are the four players who have stuck. And Nadeem is not performing particularly well. Nor Mishra today did all right. But if our spinners, Bolt is doing pretty good with the ball. Our spinners haven't been able to click. Iyer and Pant are, they're performing pretty well. They're on the top of the order. But last year we had Zahir Khan, Billings, Cummings, Braithwaite. I think we had Matthews also, Rabada. All of those guys are gone now, and every year you're like churning out new players. So I think the best strategy for Delhi would be enter the season aiming for five, basically not to be in the bottom three. Being in the bottom three the last 3 seasons, 4 seasons is just, it doesn't reflect the team's quality. So I think that's the best strategy that Delhi can try. It's given the circumstances, that just try to get into the middle of the table rather than the top four or the bottom four. Just hit the middle of the table. And now you're competing with Mumbai and Bangalore, and none of them are really clicking. So if the Iyer momentum can keep going, maybe Delhi can win the next 3 out of the 6 games and come into the middle. I think that's the best hope here.
Yeah, I actually could not agree with that more. I think it's about how you set your goals, and goals are always benchmarked against how you've done previously. If you ended up in the bottom two, I think, of course, everyone, it's sports, right? It's a game, you want to be in the playoffs. But I think given how the season started, fifth would be a pretty good achievement with the view that let's build this team for 3 years. And to be honest, again, I think one thing we haven't talked about is Rahul Dravid coaching this team, right? Rahul Dravid is probably the best coach, I mean, from at least my personal opinion, to coach a team, and we've seen that with under 19. So Delhi actually has picked a core group of young Indian guys. And let's talk about that a little bit, right? I mean, Iyer has done well. Pant, okay, we've talked about his shot selection, how he looks when he's playing. He's not that stable, falls over, but it's effective, man. This is T20 cricket. You need runs, and he's getting you the runs. One guy I want to call out, and I want to ask all three of you your opinion. I read an article, and the article basically was titled, "Who is this short guy with an MRF bat?" And that reminds you of 25, 30 years ago when a certain Sachin Tendulkar came into the team. And today I was watching a few highlights of Shaw, and opening batsman plays very similar height, of course, same bat sponsor. So let me start with Ritvik. Any thoughts on Prithvi Shaw?
I think he's got a really cool-headed. He's got the daredevil in him. He goes out there and he's just like smashes a few balls. I enjoy him, and having that kind of a free-flowing batsman up in the top of the order. He's not going to always click. He's clicked in the last 3 games. He's not going to click, and there's going to be a lot of pressure to pull him out if he's not going to click for a long. I mean, you have other people to drop in the team right now, Maxwell and others. So you don't have to push for dropping Shaw if he fails. But it's super fun to have this guy, young guy, right in front. Hits his stuff, he's very emotionless also. He's just like a machine. He reminds me of Tendulkar a lot in that sense too. It's fun to have this young fellow top of the order.
Yeah. DJ, any thoughts on Shaw? Of course, I have to say Danny Morrison did say today that the show must go on. So any thoughts on Shaw?
Yeah, well, Shaw's been compared to Tendulkar ever since he scored, I think, 546 at school level. That record has, of course, been broken since by somebody scoring 1,000 runs. So, I mean, what that means is I'll leave that to you guys to decide. But I mean, he looks good. He's captained the under-19 team to a World Cup win. He seems quite level-headed. His interviews sounded quite. He sounded like a young guy who wants to do well. He's quite ambitious, and I mean, he is the future. He reminds us all of Tendulkar just because he's that child prodigy who's marked out as the next big thing in Indian cricket, and I'm sure we will see him in Indian colours pretty soon. And yeah, I think that he's a great find for Indian cricket.
Great. Ashwin, any thoughts on? I'm going to ask you both Shaw and Gill because DJ is led in by saying Indian colours. Shaw and Gill, any thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up actually. I'm most excited about the youth and the amount of great talent. I mean, we forget sometimes Iyer is 23 as well, right? So Rishabh Pant, Gill, and Shaw, all for Delhi, and then Rishabh Pant, Iyer, and Shaw all for Delhi at the top of the order. I mean, we've talked about Delhi in the past, and we've said we've had good overseas talent. We've just been completely lacking Indian batsmen. And this year, they dropped Roy and Munro in the game that's happening as we record this, and it's all been about the Indian batsmen. So very, very exciting, great talent. It's good, it's tough right now to break through the Indian 11. I don't see it getting any easier in the next 5 to 10 years, which is a good place for the national sport.
Okay, and let's last point on Delhi. Ritvik, any thoughts on the middle order, the bowling? I mean, Trent Bolt has been a good addition, but do you think anyone else has stood out? I mean, they've played Dan Christian, Chris Morris was retained and not played. I don't want to. Let me get your thoughts.
I don't think anybody's been. We've relied so heavily on Shreyas Iyer to be the one anchor who goes through the entire innings. So he's playing the role of the middle order, the front order. And we tried Christian. Maxwell is the one I worry the most. He's dropping catches also now. He hits 10 runs in an innings of 8 to 10 balls, gets maybe 1 wicket or does 1 over or 2 overs, gives out 10, 20 runs. I don't know what purpose Maxwell is serving in the team anymore. But there isn't any real strong alternative. The Shankar fellow has some promise, but he comes in, he hits a couple of sixes at the final and then disappears. So I think that's going to be a major point in the next few matches. If Pant doesn't strike, what happens in the middle then?
Yeah, and it's interesting. In fact, it's a bit sad, but I don't think Shreyas Iyer also thought that he'll be the mainstay of any team. So Delhi is like relying too heavily on him. And the big Shaw or the big show, I mean, he hasn't also done much. So yeah. Sorry, Ritu, you're going to say something.
The idea of Dravid being replaced by Ponting, I don't know what you guys have thoughts on that, because Dravid was brought in it made sense to a lot of us who thought that the main problem with the team was relying on some old older generation international players brought in and lead the charge, failing, then get some new ones, build it from ground up. And Dravid's, I think I would characterize his coaching style quite distinctly from Ponting's, perhaps. But maybe this young generation is a legacy of Dravid having been around for the last couple of years. But is this a problem also? We talk about players changing, but coaches changing?
Yeah, Ashwin, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. You'll see that the franchises, not just in the IPL, but across the board, that across different leagues across the world, that have had consistency and continuity, and coaches have done well. So it's not just, it's sort of the English Premier League or the European soccer impact, where one bad season and the coach is out, and you see it takes 2, 3, 5 years for a coach to build not just individual players, but to build the culture that allows for success. So I agree, Ritvik. I don't know if Ponting will last through the season. If looks like Delhi's going to be bottom few again. It remains to be seen if Ponting gets another year to continue to build and consolidate from there.
But on that, I'm not sure Dravid had a choice in staying on or not. He had a conflict, so I think he had to leave. So, I mean, I think Delhi just got a bit unlucky because Dravid's the coach of the India A side and the Indian under-19 side. Um, but I think the future looks good. I mean, when you look back over the last 10, 11 years on the IPL, right, the teams that have done really well are the teams that have the solid Indian batsmen. Mumbai, Rohit Sharma, uh, Gambhir for Kolkata for many years, Shikhar Dhawan for the Sunrisers Hyderabad. So I think it's not all doom and gloom. If we can manage to retain Iyer and Pant over the next few years, and um, maybe one day we'll be sitting here and talking about the Daredevils lifting the IPL trophy. It's not this year, but
That's
we
the
live
hope.
in hope. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hope. And in fact, Ritik, yeah, I think for your question, I think for the sake of Delhi, I actually hope Ponting now does stay, because sometimes when you pick somebody, you have to give them time and you have to invest, right? If you were to change again, so yeah, I hope he does stay. So let's see, guys. Maybe next year. Maybe next year's the year, as we say every year. But okay, let's go a bit into a recap of what's happened this week. So Ashwin, I'm going to hand over to you to just talk a little bit about the week that was.
Yeah, I'll do a quick recap. I thought it was, since we were together last. Sorry, seem to be having some audio issues. All right, there we go. Since we were together last about a week ago, it's been an interesting week. We've had a mix of experience stepping up with Watson, Narayan, and people like Lynn finding their form, as well as youth stepping up with some of the Man of the Match awards this week going to Iyer, Pant, Surya Kumar Yadav. So it's been a really good mixed week. Couple of quick highlights. Mumbai managed to stay alive. They won 2 of their 3 matches this week. They still remain in a basically every match is a must-win situation, but they're alive for now. Jofra Archer, who had a great start in his first game, had a good second game and an average third outing. But I think another talent to watch out for in the coming weeks. I think his ability in the death overs really shone through this past week. There were a mix of low scoring and high scoring games. Delhi featured in 2 of the really high scoring games, which was where they fell short chasing 211 against Chennai. And then they hit 196 versus Rajasthan. So the Delhi versus Rajasthan second fixture was the only other rain impacted fixture or rain shortened fixture after the first one where Delhi lost. This time Rajasthan came out on the losing end. Hyderabad had a week basically with no games except for what's happening right now or just ended right now, where they didn't seem to feel the absence from cricket. They beat Delhi to jump to the top of the table. And one of the last couple of things we talked about, under 19 stars really showed up strong this week for Delhi. Pant had hit a beautiful 79, Shaw hit 62 and another mid 60s knock. Gill hit 57 not out to help Calcutta to one of their wins. But then also what was really exciting to continue seeing was Dinesh Karthik hit a beautiful 45 from 18, which sort of went unnoticed to be honest. But he's just really priming himself as that finisher, which is just really, really exciting both as an IPL fan but also as a Team India fan. The last thing I'll say, just to summarize this week, that I think has been very interesting, if you look at the first 10 years of IPL, so 2008 to 2017, 7 of the Orange Cap winners, Orange Cap is the most runs ever, have been overseas batsmen. So I think Kohli won it one year. There was a couple. Oh, Thapa won it one year, but it's 7 of the first 10 years were overseas batsmen. This year, more than halfway through the tournament, the top 6 run scorers are all Indian batsmen. So very interesting to see, and you guys can jump in with thoughts. But that's a quick summary of the week. As we wrap up, going into the next week, Chennai and Hyderabad are basically sure shots now into the final four. Delhi is, for all intents and purposes, out. And then Mumbai and Rajasthan are pretty precariously placed. Mumbai, Rajasthan, and then Bangalore all essentially need to win all their games. So it's going to be a good fight for that fourth spot. I'd say the top two are determined, and with one more win, Punjab is probably pretty certain as well.
Awesome, thanks. That was a great recap. So 2 points there that I just want to talk to you guys about. One is DJ Chris Lynn. I don't know if you saw his innings, but he swept every ball of spin bowling. It was ugly, to say it in a nice way. What are your thoughts on that?
I can't add to anything that you've said. It wasn't great to watch. I think he got 62 of 52 balls, which if he was batting first would have been a disaster, match losing knock. It just happened that they were chasing and against RCB, I think, and last Sunday, and they managed to get over the line. I mean, Lynn isn't someone who you associate with playing well against spin. He's great smashing the ball kind of baseball style out of the park of the quicks. But yeah, it wasn't. It was just an ugly inning. So
yeah, it was. It was. I was watching every ball of it. It was just terrible to watch. But yeah, I mean, he swept everything and he managed to get a few runs. So anyway, it'll be interesting to watch Lynn. Especially, I would say interesting because now that I think about it, in the nets, Lynn has Narayan, Kuldeep Yadav, Piyush Chawla to practice against. So for you to not be getting better, it's quite surprising. But one thing I definitely have to ask you guys, you mentioned Dinesh Karthik. Now, Ritvik, over the blog we've been following, India's got a problem at number 4 and 5. I think, let me give my personal view first here, right? I think Dinesh Karthik is just going to walk into this Indian team. Like, he's an intelligent cricketer. He's finishing the game. Again, there was an article where he's done an interview where he's very categorically said, I want to finish games the Dinesh Karthik way, not the MS Dhoni way. So, any thoughts on Dinesh Karthik finding a permanent spot in the Indian team?
Yeah, I think he's not a young fellow anymore though, So if you're expecting to nurture the talent for the future, he's a Dhoni competitor. He's in that Dhoni peer group. Although he's very fit, and one thing really great about him is that his running between the wicket is very sharp. So he has both the repertoire for high scoring, high strike rate, but also maintaining it with a good running between the wickets. And so if you had to get this guy in early you're thinking of a 50-over match, I'm guessing. If you had to get him early into the match, he has potential of staying on till the end. And Dhoni is finishing those seems to be in a third wave, like he's striking like crazy nowadays. But it's not always been the case in the last year or 2 years. So I'm excited, but I would like to see some new talent coming in and filling that middle order as well. And there's no dearth of like middle order Indian batsmen right now. So
yeah, no, fair enough. I think the interesting thing for me with Dinesh Karthik is almost like there's a saying, right? Every dog has his day, and this seems to be the culmination of all those years of experience. When you mentioned he's not a youngster, I thought of a Bollywood reference. I have to give it. When Madhavan acts in Hindi movies, right? Every time he comes in the Hindi movie, he feels like he's going to get the best debut award because people treat him like, oh, he's a newcomer, he's come back. He's actually been in the industry a long time. Dinesh Karthik is similar. He's been playing forever, but he's never got his due because of Dhoni. So, anyway, interesting there. So,
fun fact on that: Dinesh Karthik made his debut before MS Dhoni did.
Yeah, exactly. So Dinesh Karthik, I think he's 33. But yeah, it hasn't found a permanent place. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think he's finishing the games well. So anyway, let me move on to our third section. So Ritik, just a recap for you, we started something called Edges or Sledges, right? And we're going to ask 5 topics, and you have 3 options. Edge, which is not a good thing. Sledge, which is aggressive and a good thing. And if you're not sure, you could say touch and go, right?
Which is a cop out, basically. So try not to say it.
You said it a few times last week, actually, DJ.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
All of us did.
So let me start with the first topic. The first topic is, what do you guys think of having an IPL mid-season transfer window, right? So DJ, let me start with you.
I think it's an edge. It would destroy any fantasy teams. It would become really difficult. to follow. Like it would disturb the rhythm of the players. I think you could have loans, perhaps, um, but it's difficult. Y- I think I'm more for consistency within teams, and have a transfer window at the start of the season instead of in the middle of the season. I mean, it's a 2 month season, right? It's not a 9 month season like the EPL or a football season. So that's my personal view on it.
Okay, Ashwin.
Yeah, just to make sure we're all on the same page, there is a mid-season transfer window. It's live right now between match 28, which is when it started, and match 42, which is sometime next week. You can move. I believe it's any uncapped players or capped players who've played less than 2 matches. So we're talking players like Moeen Ali, David Willey, maybe who's only played one, Partha
Mm.
Patel, who's only played one. So I'm going to call the idea of this one a sledge. I think it's a fantastic idea. There are teams with so much bowling on the bench, but they're looking for one batsman, and there are other teams with lots of batting on the bench looking for a bowler who are, if you're not getting game time, why not be transferred? But I want to call the execution of this edge. It's been a week since it's been active. It hasn't. There's no news of anybody really doing anything with it. So sort of, I guess that's me saying touch and go a little bit of both.
Okay, Ritik.
I'd go with the sledge. Go for it, man. I think the Delhi's guys next week like Delhi who have no hope of winning anything now can just make money or selling some players. Why
Get rid
not?
of Shahbaz Nadeem.
Get rid of-
Hey.
but I think there's an opportunity, if one of your strike bowlers is not doing well and you need one, the leg spinners I think in this tournament are playing such a critical role, and there are teams which have multiple leg spinners. We can get them. Why not? I think there's hope.
Okay, great. Very quickly, yeah, I think it's a sledge as well. I think more just because, I mean, it is the IPL, right? It's not a serious tournament. So I think the opportunity for a mid-season transfer is interesting. Okay, let's move to the second one. This is a controversial one, guys. It's everyone's talking about it. The fielding in the IPL this year, it has been somewhat atrocious. Um, I think you are always going to have in a 2 month tournament a good catch like Trent Bolt, but that's expected in a long tournament. I think the fielding has been, yeah, it's not been up to the mark. Ashwin, edge, sledge.
Yeah, massive, massive edge for me. I think, yes, to your point, Trent Bolt's catch was amazing. Kohli had a great catch diving forward. Saudi earlier today had a really good catch on the boundary, but just not enough. I mean, Kohli's had to stand up twice for RCB and say match was pretty close, but then they lost two of their last three matches that came down to really poor fielding. Now you can argue the batting was didn't do enough, etc. But it's painful. I mean, one of the things we watch this IPL for is those spectacular catches, those runs stopped on the boundary where they stopped a certain four and just restricted them to one or two. And many matches go down to that last run. So I think fielding this year, massive edge, huge miss by most of the teams.
Yeah, in fact, that Kohli catch, did you see Anushka Sharma's reaction to that? I think she was also pretty impressed with that catch.
Yeah, it was great. I think there were two catches similar in kind of consecutive games. So Kohli's not letting his standards slip through the IPL, which is good news for Indian cricket. I think we addressed this last week as well, and for me, it's a touch and go simply because it. I mean, it's difficult to say. Fielding is going to, I think, get better as people get more interested in the tournament. Um, and I think we've already addressed it. So touch and go for me.
Okay, Ritik, quick
I
thoughts?
think I think it's a mixed one, touch and go for me as well. I think it's been surprising how many catches are going down. Easy catches are going down. Just today the simple Maxwell, the Hales catch could have been a game changer. So the catches are definitely acting as game changer, but there are some pretty awesome catches that are going on. And in general, the fielding, like the pick up and throw, has been very impressive. And the run out, some of the really great run outs happening as well. Also poor running though. Um, so I think it's a mixed one, but I remember asking you guys about this last week in the Facebook thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but maybe it's people hitting the ball in the air more, which is why you have more catches, which is why the percentage may even stay the same, but it's just that the number of catches going up is maybe Ashwin can pull some
Yeah, you
stats
got
on
to
that
give me a
maybe.
heads up if you're going to ask a
Follow up on.
question as specific
I'm
as
saying
that.
I
Otherwise,
said
I'm
next
not.
week.
Next week.
I said next week. I said next week.
Can I just say though on mine before Varun you give yours? I would the only relief from the terrible feeling has been MS behind the stumps. Some of his stumpings have just been I mean he's been doing it his whole career, but just seeing how lightning fast he grabs and whips the bail off has been phenomenal for me. So that's the only exception.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, for me, it's a sledge. I'm surprised two of you said touch and go. If the ball pops up in the air, it has to be taken, man. There's no two ways about it.
That's edge, you mean?
Yeah, edge, absolutely. What did I say? Did I say
You
sledge?
said
Sledge.
sledge.
No, I meant edged, and unfortunately, in this case, not taken. Uh, okay, let's move to the next one. Ravindra Jadeja. What is he doing? What is he doing?
He took 3 for 18 today, man.
Yeah, we decided on this being a topic
Today was,
before he took his 3 wickets, and now he took 3 for
today
18.
was
Man
the
of the
worst day. Today was the worst day to ask this. But okay, DJ, let me start with you, Jadeja.
Class player, man. Class player. He's got three triple tons or something. He's going to be, if he's in the game, Dhoni's just been saving him up. So sledge for me. Jadeja is going to win CSK the IPL. You heard it here first.
Okay, that's a good one. Ritik.
Jadeja is always a real curious animal. His journey in IPL has started with him having some promising. He was in the other league. Then he got knocked out. He was banned from the IPL 1 year because he was trying to make some deal with. I find Jadeja a very curious character, and Dhoni is probably the only person who can tame him. Yeah, he's got a Rajput, man. He's going to mess with your head. I think he's generally a good asset. And Dhoni and him, he works well, and occasionally he'll finish the game for you, or be the guy on the other side who's not getting out while Dhoni finishes the game. And his catching is also quite secure, so he's a good fielder in the outfield. I think I'll go with Sledge for him.
Okay, Ashwin.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say edge for sure. He did well this morning, picking up 3 for 18 and winning a man of the match. But prior to that, I mean, Ritvik actually alluded to his catching, which is one of the big reasons he's also still in the side. And yesterday, I think, or Friday of this week, I think it was, he dropped 2 catches on consecutive balls. And so those kinds of things, if you're not really batting, you bat at 6 or 7, depending on what's going on. You don't really bowl much. I think the way they've utilized him is an edge for me this year.
Yeah, I think edge for me too, similar to Ashwin. But what I do want to say is, I think he should be 12th man in any team. And if India is smart, I think just take Jadeja along, make him 12th man. And I mean, we've all said his biggest strength is his fielding, right? So why not? Strategically, it may make sense.
Just before we move from this, guys, did you guys see the game today where he bowled Kohli and he was about to celebrate and then
And
he
he was like,
stopped?
in fact,
He quickly turned away.
yeah, it was really great. In fact, because of his reaction, I thought it was not out. I thought Dhoni had hit the stumps or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But he literally went like,
And then he's like, listen, I need to get back into this Indian team. I
Yeah.
better not celebrate too much. And then he continued that for the next 2 wickets as well. He just
Yeah.
kind of stared at the. I think that's a great celebration, man.
I think
Um,
I think he realized earlier this week, I think it was, Ish Sodhi dismissed Kane Williamson and over celebrated, and Williamson walked off, and you could see that he's thinking this guy's out of the New Zealand side for a while. So I think word spreads, and Jadeja just said he's going to be quiet.
yeah, exactly. I think that was a smart move by him. So, okay, let's talk about one more, which is Akash Chopra has come out with his own app, and he wants to do this podcast. I mean, who does he think he is to do a podcast? I'm going to open the floor. I don't think you should be listening to any other podcast except One Tip One Hand, especially not Akash Chopra. But DJ, any thoughts on that app? Would you download it?
I mean, who is Akash Chopra? Is he the same guy who is Deep Das Gupta?
I think so, man. It looks similar.
He looks similar. This is the guy who writes the really boring technical articles on Cricinfo, right?
Yes.
About front foot and you must bend your leg before hitting the ball and stuff.
Yeah, and
I mean, he's like, go on.
If you see a picture of him, he's always dressed as if he's going to his own wedding. His pocket square in his suit matches his socks, which matches his shirt. So yeah, always.
I think edge for me, definitely. I mean, Akash Chopra I think he was a good opener in 2003 just because he batted with Viru. Because no one noticed him. Viru is like on 200, this guy's batting on 7. But at least he was there, I guess. And he was taking the single and giving it to Viru occasionally. So, I mean, he's a nobody. And, I mean, why does he need an app? Why does anybody need an app? I don't understand this stuff.
It's the solution to everything, man. The app.
Yeah, actually, an app is the solution to everything. Maybe you can
Should,
call a
should
Uber
we
through
guys
that.
have an app? Should we guys have an app, guys? I think we need some feedback on this. Should we have an app?
Yeah,
Yeah, I should
anyone?
do a poll. You should create
Okay,
an app, do a poll on the app, and then
that's
To
a,
see whether we should have an app. Yeah, nice.
that's a great idea. Okay, I'm actually going to skip this. This is a
Wait, I want to
it's
add. I want to add one thing quickly. Since you guys were mentioning,
okay.
it does take a unique talent to have a test average of 23 with a test strike rate of 34 and then a T20 strike rate of 91. I'm just saying that takes a unique type of skill. It's almost difficult to do that. So you got to give him a little bit of credit.
wasn't Akash Chopra the guy who was allegedly behind the fake IPL website, the blog that was going on like 2010 or something?
I remember that.
Yes, fake IPL player.
I think
No. But that guy
Akash-
came out. Yeah,
Yeah,
later
it
he wrote a
wasn't
book.
eventually him, but he was one of
It
the
wasn't
suspects.
eventually, but it was sounded oddly like Akash.
Yeah,
Chopra.
because he was in the KKR dressing room, not really batting, not really in the nets, not really doing it. So a blog made sense, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this reminds
And
me.
he-
I don't DJ and Ritik, if you remember, but Atul Vasan came to our school once. And everyone was like, he's played one day international. And we were all like, why is he here, right? Like, Akash Chopra seems that caliber.
But seriously, Atul Vasan. Okay, so we played a parents versus school team match once, and boss, he was like 45, but he was still fast. I was like, "ठीक है, मतलब okay." Then I stopped saying anything after that.
He's also an imposing looking person as compared
Yeah.
to Akash Chopra.
Yeah,
He
but I
looks-
love the way this conversation has gone to Atul Vasan. Did he get into a fight also recently?
Did he?
He got stopped at the toll bridge or something. Something happened recently. Anyway, I think we're digressing from the topic. So back to Varun.
Okay, last question. Virat Kohli doing a county stint with Surrey. Thoughts on that? Let me go with Ashwin first.
Yeah, massive slide for me. I love it. The busiest cricketer, huge calendar, but he acknowledges that England is a weak spot for him. He acknowledges that he needs overseas batting time. He's going to wrap up the IPL, go play for a month, and get ready. I mean, fantastic. Just getting that kind of match experience in a country where you're going to do the tour is could be game changing. So big slide for me.
Okay, Ritik?
I don't really have a strong opinion on that, but I think Kohli getting some. Kohli doesn't seem like a guy who needs batting practice, so I think there must be some other reason. Maybe Anushka's got a movie shooting happening.
Interesting. You heard it here first, guys. Kohli doesn't actually need batting practice. His wife is shooting in England. That's an interesting take. DJ?
Yeah, I think it's a massive sledge for me. He averages 13 and a half in England, and frankly, I'm tired of hearing everyone go on about it. Because, I mean, what has Joe Root done? What has Kane Williamson done? What has Steve Smith done? Actually, we know what Steve Smith has done. But Virat Kohli is now going to do 1 month in England, and he's going to score like so many runs in England that everything is just going to, like, everyone's just going to be quiet. Because all I hear every time is like, what has he done in England? And I'm just like, what has England done in India? I mean, it's so frustrating because they judge him by that one series where Jimmy obviously had his number. And Kohli's acknowledged it, and he's been big enough to say that yes, I will do this 1 month stint, and I think it's going to be a massive plus for England because you have Pujara who bats at 3 for India. You have Ishant Sharma who's done well before. You've got Akshar Patel, I think. Not sure why he's over here, but Virat Kohli. I mean, the biggest name in sport, the most marketable character in sport. It's good for the county game because people will turn up, and it's good for Test cricket in England, which Varun and I are going to be watching later in the summer. So Lords and Trent Bridge, right? And I have tickets to the Oval as well. So looking forward to watching Kohli score lots and lots of runs.
Absolutely. I think it's a massive sledge for me as well. Did you guys see Jimmy Anderson's white hair? Did any of you see that?
Yeah.
That was awesome, man. I was like, who's this guy? And I think he was bowling from the Jimmy Anderson end or something also.
Yeah.
That was too funny.
Yeah, Jimmy's got it. I hope like Kohli can deal with Jimmy, man. It was quite depressing watching it last time round.
Yeah, the fishing outside the off stump.
It was like just watching it on repeat.
Well, Pujara's got a series of single-digit scores in England, so hopefully he's getting it out of the way so that all the triple-digit scores show up when he's playing for the team.
Yes.
Yeah.
And BJ, I can understand your frustration. I guess that's the great thing about living in Singapore. Nobody even knows what is cricket, so nobody can say, why did Kohli perform badly or what has he done here, etc. So,
Yeah.
okay, guys, last section, very quickly, fantasy tip of the week. DJ has got his head in his hands. DJ, come on, let's hear it from you. Use
Guys,
multipliers.
this multiplier is a new thing that came up this time around, right? So basically, what it does, it allows you to double the points of everybody in that game. So I thought, okay, so the guy who was coming second played it in a game in which I think he made 700 points just normally, which got doubled, which became 1400. Right? So he was like behind me by 600 points, and he went ahead by 800 points. I was like, okay, so let's try this out. So the first game, I loaded up all my players, and it was RCB versus Mumbai. Had like six or seven players, and I think I got 82 points, doubled. Rohit Sharma got a duck into 4. Then Washington Sundar got smashed for some minus 30, which got into 4. So I actually ended up negative almost. And then I was like, okay, so fine, that's still fine. I'm still in the. I've only used 1. Then I saw KKR versus CSK, another like full of massive kind of big name players, Watson, Russell, Nareen, lots of all rounders, bowling points, batting points. Filled it up again. I got 200 points into 2, which is 400, and I've used up 2 out of the 3, and I'm just like, so I think the tip for this week is, you guys, you need to work out when to use your multiplier, because when it backfires, it really hurts.
Okay, fair enough. Ashwin?
My tip is watch out for the teams that are just in the league now to play spoiled sport. So Delhi's already become one of them officially. No real chance of the playoffs. Within the next couple of days, one of Mumbai, Bangalore, and Rajasthan will be just around to play spoiled sport. And for some reason, with teams like Delhi, that's when they start to show up really big. So back the teams that have nothing to lose, because those guys are going to show up just to have big, strong individual performances. That's my fantasy tip for the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Ritvik, it feels a bit odd to ask you for a fantasy tip, but you were beating me for a while, so let's hear it.
I think my policy is go front heavy. Go front heavy in the tournament. So based on the failure of that philosophy, I think my suggestion is that this is the lull period of the IPL. Things are getting a little slow. The exciting games are kind of like drying up. There'll be an occasional exciting game. The challenge is to change your team and with focus and change your trump and pay attention. So that's my suggestion. Endurance.
Endurance. Yeah, I think next year you may want to train ahead of the IPL. It's like we talked about endurance and stamina.
My story is like Delhi Daredevils. We start with promise and then we just
absolutely great. My tip is go for the kill, because honestly, there are guys like DJ in the league who are now not so hot anymore. So DJ, this week you might just see 2 multipliers from me, which will end up amplifying it and then satisfying it. So yeah.
Nice.
Anyway, guys, I don't know, that was complete nonsensical. But anyway, that comes to the end of the show. So thank you, Ritvik, for joining. It was great having you on. And yeah, guys, we'll be back again next week with another fan for another team coming to the tail end of the tournament. So yeah, it's exciting times ahead. Do watch our podcast, watch our video, like us on Facebook, share, subscribe, etc. Yeah, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. Thanks, Ritvik.